Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre, and welcome to my first tutorial in my new process where I am using the polymer clay beads that I made in my last video. So this is one of the designs that I am teaching, and I don't know how to name it. I'll call it my swirl heart. It works best with hearts, but you can do it with ovals, so that if you made those beads but chose to do a different shape, you still could probably use it. So you'll just have to check it out. And these were made in my first attempt at doing a video. I was having huge technical issues getting used to my new table in my little tiny studio. As you can, it's my guest room really. And so basically I'm going to redo it. I'm just going to change it up a little bit with how many dangles I put on the bottom. In this set I put 1 dangle on the earrings and 3 on the pendant. And today in this tutorial we're going to use the pink beads and the flowers on the opposite side. So we're going to have the challenge of doing a different veil than we did on this one. So this one was just the forwards. This one we have to do the backwards wrap because the flowers are on the other side. Now I don't know why I put the flowers on this side with this one. I usually only do that when I had the hole going this way, but I goofed up. So it's always good to know what to do when you have to have the wrapping on the other side. So the next thing I wanted to ask you was to pay attention to the link in the description where I am featuring my new Facebook group where I am going to be posting my items for sale. So I've been making, and I'm still not finished making the hearts left over from that clay we did in the video. So doing all the flowers and stuff, it's time consuming. Then I got to bake in between, and then I have to resin each piece. And anyways, it's been challenging getting it done. So that's what I've been doing the last few days, plus my tutorial yesterday that ended up not working. So here we go, and let's start again. The one thing that was a bonus is I have the examples at the beginning of the tutorial without having to splice the 2 videos together. So anyway, so I'm going to get all the stuff ready so that we can start on making our jewelry. Okay, so what you're going to need for tools is your flush cutters or snips, a chain nose plier, and I wanted to just mention that I've been seeing in some videos where people are saying chain nose pliers and flat nose pliers are the same thing. They aren't. A flat nose pliers is square at the tip, and chain nose pliers are pointed at the tip. So they are not the same thing. And round nose pliers, and that's where you have the cone-shaped tips. Okay, and you're going to need your ruler only for measuring your wire. Now, I usually work with work wire. And what that is you snip off a long piece of wire, and you do your one item that you're making, and then you snip off, and then you make the next piece out of the rest, and that way you don't have as many scraps. But I've noticed that it confuses a lot of people when I do that, and they go and ask me, well, how much wire do I need for each piece? So that's what we're going to do this time. Is you can choose to do working wire, or you can choose to measure ahead of time. So what this is, it's 20 gauge. I'm using copper. This is pure copper. And 20 gauge is 0.81 millimeters for those that are in metric. You're going to need 1 8-inch length, 2 6-inch lengths, and either 7 long head pins, or you can make your own head pins along with me, and 7 4-inch lengths. Oops, There we go. And so that's what we're going to start with, is we're going to make the head pins first. But also you will need the beads that you're choosing to work with in this design. And these happen to be the pieces I made in the last video. Now these little hearts are 14 by 16 millimeters. The big heart I haven't really measured, so I'm going to measure it in millimeters. This is about 28 by 30 approximately. So you can use a bead that's similar in those dimensions. You could do an oval, you could do a square. This design is meant for flat beads. So, and these ones are, well, some of my hearts are thicker than others because it depends on what number I rolled them at and how much they thinned out when I burnished them. But they're approximately 4 millimeters thick. So now that I've cut my wires, I don't need my ruler anymore. So, and I also noticed that this one heart, I did the flowers on the wrong side. I usually do the flowers on that side when it's for the pin tutorial, the pins that I'm going to be making. So you're going to see how I have to switch up my bail direction in order to accommodate this flower, and that won't hurt. Whereas in this one, I had the flowers on the right hand side, which took the normal method of wrapping, the forwards wrap. And if you've been following along with me, you know what a reverse loop is. Well, this time we're doing a reverse bail, and I normally never do a reverse bail. So we will do that. And so we're going to start with making the drops, or the head pins for the drops. So you're going to take the 7 4-inch pieces. I'm just going to show you one. And you're going to need your chain nose pliers. We're doing a simple tiny loop at the bottom. It's basically just enough to make it a stop. And it's just to make our drops. Oh, I forgot to mention the beads needed for the drops, because we're making more drops for this set because I wanted to vary from the other set. I have 4 6x4 rondelles, and just because I'm using these beads doesn't mean you have to. I will write in the description what beads I used, but you could change it up and do whatever beads you like. I'm using 3 8x6 rondelles, and I need to count these: 2 4 6 8 10 12 13 4x3 rondelles. And then, yeah, that's to your supply list, and it'll be in the description as well. Okay, so I just had to pause for a minute as my husband messaged me. So, interruptions. But he'll be coming back soon, I would think, and hopefully he won't be too noisy when he comes in. So, so that's the head pin. I'm going to make another one just in case I wasn't in focus. I'm going to move these beads out of the way. And so all I'm doing is making a stop by putting that tiny loop in like that and crimping it in. And I don't even try to make it like an eye pin. I just leave it like that, because we're going to try and do it so that the drops, it's facing this way when we have the drops hanging. And from the side, it looks fine anyways. Okay, so I want you to go ahead. I'm going to pause. Go ahead and make all your head pins, or get your head pins ready. Okay, so I have those head pins done. And if you have purchased your head pins, you'll still need to do this step. So what's next is to straighten it. And this will work harden the wire too. And we just want the bottom part where the beads are going to sit to be nice and straight. And that will ensure that your bead drops are nice and straight. So let's do that to all of them. Doesn't take long. You could do that as you go as well, but actually that's what I'll do. And the first, if you're following along to do the exact same drops I am, the first ones I'm going to do are the 3 drops with the 8x6, and we are going to do one of them, only one, with 2 rondelles on it. And then you need your round nose pliers. I gotta grab mine, got tangled. And now it's always a good plan to know what position on your pliers, how thick you need to make 3 wraps. So we have to figure that out. And it's always good to practice some. So if it doesn't turn out, because you want your drops all to be, you know, about the same. You want them to be consistent. It looks better. So that's where I think will be 3 wraps. And then I'm going to do my favorite size of loop. And I've bent it back. Now I'm bending forwards to wrap around. And this will be a frontwards. And I laddered up my pliers. I'll do more than 1 wrap because I didn't explain that very well. And then I'm going to wrap 3 times. And this is the front of the bead. I have that bottom facing forwards. You could always change, fix it if it wasn't. And I'm going to snip it off at the back and crimp it in. Grab the wrong thing. Okay, and then get your chain nose pliers and crimp that end in. So, and then you do your check where you make sure your wraps are nice and neat. And sometimes it's hard to get there. I can't get my pliers in, but you can sometimes pull on the bead to squish it up or push it down. But anyways, as neat as you can and as straight. You want it straight too. So it's going to hang like this. That's the front. That's the back. Okay, that one's done. And then you're going to take your next one, and the next 2, we're going to do the same. And we want 1 8x6 rondelle and 1 6x4 rondelle. And then we want 3 wraps again, so the same size. And you're bending it forwards like that. You're moving your pliers up to your favorite spot for the same size of loop. The size of your loop will affect the length of your drop as well. So I've got my pliers like that. And now I'm wrapping around the top shank of my round nose pliers. I'm moving up my pliers and pulling it like that to make my loop. And there's my loop. It's nice and straight there. This part isn't straight, so I'm just going to straighten that out. Okay, I'm putting my pliers back in firmly, all the way in, and I'm doing the 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3, and to the back. And I'm going to snip that off at the back. And crimp it in. I'm getting lots of scraps. These will be good for baking beads on. Well, as what I do lots of little things with my scraps. I don't throw my scraps out. Scraps come in handy, especially when you're running low on wire. Now, I don't know if anybody's like me, but when my wire starts getting low, I almost have a panic attack, and I got to order my wire because I order my wire from the States. I live in Canada. I live in Sherwood Park, Alberta, in Canada, and I order my copper from Rio Grande in the States, and it takes sometimes up to 3 weeks for it to arrive. So if I don't have enough wire to last, I panic. So what I've been doing, and this is just silly me, I actually have one package unopened, and when I run out of this roll, because I buy a pound at a time, and 20 gauge is what I use the most of, I order my next one and then start that next one, and that way I never run out, because literally I've had some pretty bad panic attacks. Okay, so we need 2 of these, and so you can pause and make your second one. I'm not going to make mine yet. I will do one pause when I do all of them, and I will go on to then what the next 4 will be. And I've got 4. Oh, I probably said this was a 6x4 rondelle. This is a 4x3 rondelle above there. Sorry. I just clicked in because this is the 6x4. So we're going to take a head pin, and we're making 4 of these. And you put your 6x4 rondelle and then a 4x3 rondelle. And then we're going to do the exact same type of wrap. So we want 3 wraps. You want this like this. To your favorite size of loop. Snip it at the back. Crimp it in. Make sure everything's straight. I call that doing your checks. So you're crimping it in. I was a little bit looser with this. I have a little bit extra wire there, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend this bottom one in like that, and that'll cinch up the beads a little bit taller, and then you'll never know that I didn't quite measure it wrong, and then it looks good again. So I need you to make 4 of those. Okay, I'm going to pause. I'm going to get all my drops made, and I'll be back. Hey, so I've been rethinking these drops. Can I get you to make all 3 with the 8x6 rondelles to have 2 instead of 1? So I'm going to remake these with 2, because I was just putting these side by side for the earrings, and I thought like that would look prettier on the earrings. So still the same amount of wire, still the same amount of everything, except for, and actually, that's what I had planned. When I said 13 of those beads, that included that. So wrap 3 of them the same, and then do the rest like this. Okay? Okay, so I have 3 of the bigger bead drops, and then 4 of the 6x4 rondelle drops. And you should have 3 of your 4x3 rondelles left over, and those are going to be used for the tops of the hearts. Okay, so we're just going to set that aside. We are going to start with the heart that uses the normal wrap. And then we'll do the reverse wraps one after the other with the big heart and the smaller heart. So what we're going to do is we need 1 big drop and 1 little drop to go on the bottom of these earrings. And you're going to need to take 1 of your 6-inch pieces of 20 gauge, which is 0.81 millimeters for metric. And we're going to make it a long eye loop head pin. and so a 6-inch one. And we want the loop fairly big because it's going to have the 2 wraps, the 2 drops on it. So it's going to be bigger than the average loop that you make for earrings. So probably, well, I'm going to do about a 4mm loop. And so at first it's an eye loop, and then I go like that and make it into, first it's a P loop rather. I said eye loop, didn't I? And now I'm going to straighten it out, and it's not quite centered. I want it to be centered. And I'm going to straighten out the wire this way, which is work hardening it too, which is a good thing. Okay. And now we're ready to put the heart on there. And now the hole is going to be firm, or a little bit tough to get into, because it was made with one of these wires. So I could take a drill bit and make it a little bit bigger, but it still goes in not too bad. And you're going to put that loop right to the tip of the heart. And now we're going to take one of these rondelles. And you could use bicones, a 4mm bicone here too. I just didn't happen to have bicones in this color of bead, and I really wanted to use this bead. So these beads are hard to find, the pink. They're almost like opalite, pink opalite. Okay, so we are now just doing our typical wrap, 3-wrap loop for hanging an earring. So you want it actually to be, we want the loop the opposite way that this loop is facing. So we're going to flip that, and then we're going to bend that forward, ladder up your pliers, make your typical size of loop by wrapping this around. Okay, so I want you to take note, when we make our typical loop, we always end up with the wire on the left-hand side. And when you do a reverse loop, you do the opposite. You go on the right-hand side. So we're trying to do 3 wraps. And now this is the front, so we want to make it go to the back. So 3 wraps actually looks like 4, but it's not. It's still 3. And snip it at the back. No, you do not snip it at the back. I did this in my last video, believe it or not, but I did it with the pendant. I have to redo this. I will be right back, and I'll have us caught up. Okay, so I'm going to redo that wrap and explain what we're doing. So we're doing the enough room for 3 wraps, pushing that forward, making a regular size of loop. Laddering up my pliers. Okay, and now this is the front of the bead, so you take note as to what the front of the bead is. And 1, 2, 3. We don't go to the back. We want it to go straight. Oops. We wrap 3 times. We want to go straight this way. Okay, so I'm going to just show you. We want it to look like that. Now I'm going to straighten out my wraps and my loop. We want it to sit nice. Make sure that's sitting nice. Okay, straight up. So this loop is this way, and so yes, we want this loop going this way, and we want this loop going this way. So we want them going the same direction. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is do my springboard loop, and it's something that is original for me. It is mine. Maybe you'll call it Cheryl's springboard loop, but I just go like this and do a loop in front of the wraps. Oh my goodness, I'm really not with it. I have to do this again because I'm going the wrong way. I grabbed the wrong bead this time. It should be this bead. Okay, so mistake again. Wrap, when you're doing your frontwards wrap, you need to be with the flowers on the right. So I'll be back. Okay, so I really apologize for this, guys. So we're going to make sure we have the right bead. We want the bead with the flowers on the right hand side. And we need 1 rondelle, and that's a 4x3 rondelle, and 1 6-inch piece of wire. And okay, so you can tell I'm not used to doing these videos anymore. I got to get with it, don't I? Okay, I'm going to start again. Making a large loop. Won't take long to catch up. Straightening it out, work hardening it a little bit. The loops, it's okay if the loop's a little bit open because we'll be closing it later. Put your bead on the bead that has the flowers on the right hand side to make the regular loop. Okay. Put your 4x3 rondelle, and we want the loop to be the same direction as the bottom loop. We want the space to be big enough for 3 wraps. Push it forward, ladder up, wrap around, 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3. We're not going to the back. We're going to just go straight to the left. We're going to straighten out our wraps. I mean, the wraps are going to be kind of disguised, but you know what? It's stronger when it's nice and neat. And it isn't always easy to crimp them up. Do the best you can. Make sure your loops are the right way. Now, how I invented this design, that's because I wanted something to keep my beads sitting straight. I hate it when the beads flip around. So that's how it started. And then the springboard loop came about because when I did this loop, it would never go into position. And the springboard loop actually makes it stronger too, and springier. And it just, well, it works. And that's how I came up with that. So it is my own original design. Okay, so we are going to make the wire go kind of like in opposite directions. So this was a clockwise wrap loop. Now we're doing a counterclockwise. We want it to be located in this corner of the heart because we really don't want it covering the flower. So now I'm going to put my fingernail there to do a bend, and that'll get the loop started in the position we want it. And see how this is nice and soft flowing? That's what that springboard loop does. Okay, so 1 loop like that. And now we're just gently curving it, and we want it to go behind the bead, and we want to go behind this loop. So we want it to be, so it looks nice and neat. So gently pull it, but we're pulling, I'm holding this loop down so it doesn't get displaced, and I'm firmly putting tension on that and wrapping around that loop at the base. And now it's done. I'm going to snip it right in there. I love these types of snips because they get where you want them. I don't like the fat ones. Okay, so now I'm going to crimp that loop as close best as I can. Now it's touching this loop instead of that one, but that's okay. Pushing it down with my pliers like that. And now we are ready to put the drops on. Now, you will need to decide which side you want the longer one. I would say, what looks better? like that, or like that. I like it like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to aim for when I put the beads on, the drops on. So I'm going to open this loop up just like a jump ring. You never pull it out because it'll ruin your circle. You're going this way because that won't ruin your circle, or most of the time won't. And then you want to put your drops on front ways. If you put them on and that little where you snipped it shows in the front like this, that's, see, can you see it at the bottom right there? That's the back of the drop. We want the front of the drop. Okay, that's the back. Just flip it around. Now I've got the front. And this one. Oh, that's the back. Flip it around. Okay. And now I'm just going to close up that wire by wiggling it back and forth and tightening it up so the wire closes. And there. You know what? I forgot to put, I usually make my own ear wires. I didn't do that ahead of time. So what I'm going to do is take some off of another pair of earrings. See, here's another pair of earrings I made just like this. But I did a different, I have dark purple bicone, a dark purple bicone here instead of clear. I think the clear looks better. Yeah, those are the first pair I made. I'm just going to take my ear wires off of this pair. I believe this pair is up for sale in my my group already. I can't remember for sure, but oh, there's the other one. Okay, so I'm putting it on the ear wire. I'll just have to make another pair of ear wires because I make my own ear wires. And that's work hardened wire, so it's really stiff and strong. And that earring is done. Oh, right, the checks. So once it's on, you need to, it seems like the sun's moving. I got more shadow. You're holding it up and you're doing your checks. Is it sitting right? And if it's not, then you need to move loops and stuff accordingly in order for it to hang right. And mine's hanging good now. And that one is done like that. And I will start on the next one. So I'm going to take this ear wire off in readiness. Okay, so this one we are doing. So you need your 6-inch piece. You need a rondelle. And you need your bead with the flowers on the left-hand side. And just like before, we're making the larger loop at the bottom. And turn it into an eye loop. Take your chain nose pliers and snap on it. Make it flat and work hardening it. And now put your heart on and your rondelle on. Okay, and this time we are doing the same type of spacing. We want 3 wraps. And we're going forwards, laddering up to our favorite size of loop. And this time when we make the loop, we are just going to make the wire head to the back. And make your loop. Okay, so it's basically just as before. But we're going to finish off with the wire going in the opposite direction. And that is going to help us mirror our ear wires. And for some reason, my loop changed on me. So I'm just going to change. I just flipped it around because it's easier to wrap that way. So 1 wrap, 2 wrap, 3, and we're going to go this direction. So we're this way, and I'm straightening out my loop and straightening out my wraps, and we're not snipping it. Okay, now we're doing the jump loop again, spring loop rather, and we want to make sure that we are the same size as the other one. Now I see that I am the same size, but I'm up too far here, and that will affect the look, final look of it. So I'm just gonna gently tease it down a little bit. Okay, and we want the loop. Now I do see that the loop here moved. I'm just going to push that up. Hold this here, push that up, because we don't want to cover that flower. Okay, so now we want this one in the same position. And we want the loop to be the same size, so we have to pay attention to that detail. And then you just pull it tight enough. And now I think I'm a little bit smaller, so I'm going to push it back, make it a tiny bit bigger, curve it down, and we're heading to the back of this loop again. I'm holding this with my thumb so it doesn't move, pulling tight, wrapping around, and see, we did that. And now we're going to snip it. I'm going to pull this back so I can get at it a bit better. There. And now I'm going to crimp it in, push it down. Okay. And I'm going to compare again to, and they're quite mirrored nicely. That is almost perfect. I'm pushing this one up a little bit. Oh, they're so pretty. I love these. Next step is to grab 2 of your drops. And we want to reverse the drops. So we want them sitting this way. So we have to keep that in mind when we put them on. And my loops have been opening up on this side. Yours might be opening up on the other side. You have to be mindful of what order you have to put your bead drops on in order to get them to line up. Okay, so backwards. 1, 2. And then crimp it or close the loop. Okay, and that one's done. And put your ear wire on it. Sometimes you need to, these loops need to be parallel to each other. And actually this one is a little off. Sometimes you have to straighten it out. Sometimes they're matching and they're close together that you can't get the loop through. What you need to do then is just put a little bit of space between the 2 loops. Mine haven't been doing that this time. My last tutorial that you didn't get to see, I did have to spread mine apart on the one earring. Make sure your ear wire's sitting right. Do your test to make sure your earrings sitting forward and it looks good, and the earrings are done. Okay, so now we're moving on to the pendant. So we have 3 drops, and we're going to have them sitting like so. So short, long, short. I'm just going to have them sitting there. Now you have your 8-inch piece of wire, and we're starting the exact same way. The big loop on the bottom. Make it into an I loop. It's a P loop at first. It is just because it makes a P. Put your pliers in there, push it up, turn it into an I, flatten it, pinch it, work hard in that loop and that wire. There. Okay, and let's see, how hard is this going to be to get this wire in? Last time with my big bead, I ended up taking my pliers and pushing it in that way, and that works. Little bit by little bit, and then once it's poking through, then you can pull it along, and there. Okay, and then you're going to put, this is the last rondelle, and we've used them all up. Now we are going to make a backwards bail. And bear in mind that a bail will look better on one side than the other. So we're going to pay attention to what looks better and flip it around accordingly before we do our last wrap. So just giving you heads up on that. So a bail, we need the loop going forwards and backwards, whereas this one we need going side to side. So now we want the same distance for 3 wraps as we did before, but we're this direction instead of that direction. So it's basically exactly the same process as the loop, regular loop. Okay, but now we want to wrap 2 loops, and we want them as big as we can get them. And sometimes your bead will get in the way, but you just have to do the best you can to wrap around your pliers. So, and you need to move your pliers accordingly. See, I can't wrap anymore. I now need to move my pliers like so, up. And then I need to pull this around and go up. And my pliers are in the way again. And this time I actually have to take my pliers out, put it back in on the other shank of my round nose pliers, and we are, oh, I did it frontwards. We need to do it backwards. So I need to actually, sorry, I goobered. Okay, we need to go on the right hand side of the loop. Whoops, right hand side. Okay, so I fixed it up, no worries. And I need to pull my pliers out there, and then we're wrapping around the second loop around the right hand side of that loop. Moving up my pliers again, have to move my wire out of the way of the bead and up. And there's a double loop, and it's looking like that. Okay, so this side is neater, so we are going to flip that to the front because that's going to be the neater part of the bail. And now I'm putting my pliers back in, and we're going to do our wrap 1. Okay, we're going to end it up. It actually looks like 3 wraps, but I ran out of room, so I had my length a little bit short, and that could be because I had to undo and redo a wrap. But you know what? That's okay, because we're not. This isn't an earring. We're not having to be consistent with something else, and we can still make our spring loop. But I do notice, because this is so centered, I'm going to move it back because it's going to get in my way a little bit. I'm going to move it back like that, you see, so it's back, and I still have to straighten out my wrapping though, and so it's not going to be in my way as much. but I'm going to fix my loops so that they're equal. Put it on my, push it on my pliers on both sides, and then that just straightens out my rings and makes them look neat. Okay, so I've got all that looking nice, and now I'm doing my spring loop again, and we're on the proper side, and I want to do a double loop like this one. Okay, but it's going to be on this side. And we want to kind of go on the opposite side right here, opposite side of the flowers. I'm going to put my, and this was a counterclockwise loop. We want a clockwise loop now because we do opposites here. And I'm putting my thumbnail there to start the loop. And once it's started, then we can go with it. We'll do a small, about the same size as the other one. And now we do an echo loop around it. And I'm just supporting that loop with my thumb and using tension and pressure to guide that wire to make a nice, neat loop. See, and I'm actually holding on to, once it's formed really nice, then I hang on to the next part. And we want it to go touch it right at the top of the loop. And now, and see, I'm almost out of wire, but I have enough. Now we're going to go. See, this time, this one, I went to the front. This one, I'm actually wanting to go to the back, just like the other. You could choose to go to the front, but I think it holds its position better if we go to the back. This one, we're going to the back. And do the exact same thing as the earrings. So, I mean, a lot of consistencies. Now you're ready to snip it off. Not a lot of waste here, guys. Okay. That was like not even half an inch. And crimp that in. Well, it's being difficult. And push it down. Now we are ready. How does that look? And I'm thinking I want to push that up just a little bit. And, you know, the spring loop gives us that little bit of freedom to do that. Okay. Now we're ready to put the drops on. So we want to go small, short, long, short. Make sure they're facing forward. Oh, that one's backwards. Okay. Close your loop. Make sure it's facing forward. And there. Oh, I like that look a lot better than the other one. I'll just show you the comparison. I mean, you can do both. They both look pretty. But can you see how that's just changes it up at the bottom? Kind of nice. Okay, and then the next thing you would do is put on your chain or cord or whatever it is. I like chain. I'm a chain person. I buy my chain in bulk. And I'm kind of picky as to what chain I buy. I buy usually very high quality chain. And I buy it in bulk. It's hard to find. I actually, lately, I used to buy it off of Etsy, and the company doesn't sell it on Etsy anymore. So I've been going to eBay, and what this is copper-plated brass. So even when the plating wears off, it still has a coppery look. So this chain will last forever. Like, seriously, each link is soldered closed. That's another thing I look for. So you look for brass, copper-plated brass soldered links. Those are the requirements. And then you know you've got a good chain. So anyways, that's what it looks like on the chain. And just, these kind of got messed up. I'll pick that up, get them to hang right. There we go. And there's your set. And I would have them sit like this. So this would be on your, if I was wearing it, it would be on my right ear, and this would be on my left ear. And there we go. Okay, thank you for joining me in my video. Hit the like button if you liked it. I'm hoping you did. If you've watched it this far, I'm guessing you did. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And check out my YouTube group, my Facebook group, to see what I have for sale. These items, it might be in the next week or so, they'll be up for sale. And if you want to use the same beads I did, I've got the 2 varieties of the handmade stone look, and then this is the pearly pink. It actually, I don't know if you can see the little bit of glimmer in there. It's got a glimmer. I might, in the future, I might do some other colors as well, you know, because hearts are my favorite thing. So that's, a lot of my jewelry is hearts. And if you notice, yeah, hearts are my thing. Okay, well, thank you for joining me. God bless. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.